Thank you for volunteering to be the Operation Frontline chef instructor. Here's a few helpful tips to make your experience in your new class kitchen go a little bit smoother. The first thing is to be prepared. Second, know your supplies. Third, remember that not all kitchens are created equal. And fourth, don't forget to teach. Be prepared. The week before class, you'll want to be in communication with the Operation Frontline coordinator and your other co-instructor to make sure that you know which recipes will best fit with the participants' needs as well as the lesson plan for that day. Also, immediately before the class, you'll need to be there with enough time to set up your workspace, have everything laid out just as you'll need it for the class, and know exactly what order you're going to be doing things in. As you're preparing for your class, you want to keep in mind things like the number of participants that you'll have, the ages and skill levels of the participants in the class, and how many jobs there might be as you're putting together the different recipes. If you have an hour and 8 very eager 10-year-olds, you might want to have a few activities up your sleeve to keep them occupied. Know your supplies. Each week you'll want to look ahead to the recipe that you're making the next week and be able to communicate with your Operation Frontline staff member if there's any particular materials that you will require to make that recipe happen. Also, once you get there, make sure that all of the supplies you need will be there. For example, if you're making pancakes and these are your supplies, you're going to have to come up with a creative way to turn those pancakes without a spatula. Unfortunately, not all Operation Frontline sites have fabulous kitchens. Some are fantastic, some are a little small, some aren't even functioning. Communicate with your Operation Frontline class coordinator prior to the class beginning so that you know what you'll be walking into. If you find yourself in a kitchen with a ton of prep space, use it the best that you can. If you find yourself in a kitchen that has no prep space, you might need to prep in an adjacent room. Make sure that the class participants at least have the opportunity to come into the kitchen to watch you while you're doing key things like sautéing. If you happen to find yourself teaching a class in a place where the kitchen is either non-existent or non-functioning, you might need to be relying on the use of portable burners and portable appliances. If that's the case, make sure that your recipes are conducive to that, and also give yourself extra time to let those burners heat up. Perhaps the most important thing for you to keep in mind while you're working with an Operation Frontline class is don't forget to teach. Operation Frontline classes are not cooking shows. They are times for you to be offering instruction and giving the participants hands-on experience so that they can become better cooks for their families. When you're demonstrating different cooking techniques in class, it's important to communicate what's actually going through your head. If, for example, you're going to cut a carrot and you're going to create a flat surface because you don't want it to be rolling around on your cutting board, explain to the participants while you're doing that the reason you've just cut it in half is so that you created a flat surface and that is a safer way to cut things. If you're going to demonstrate how to cut a carrot, don't put the bowl right in front of your cutting board, blocking participants' view. Keep things like that off to the side so that everyone is able to see exactly what you're doing. Another thing to keep in mind is in certain classes, like when you're working with young children, you might want to bring the children up individually to the cutting board as opposed to having a cutting board and a knife positioned in front of each 8-year-old. We have an opportunity when we're teaching the cooking portion of the class to talk about more than just the recipe. This is the perfect opportunity to talk about what to do when we don't have an ingredient or when we need to make a more economical substitution. It's also a great opportunity to talk about how we organize things. How do you actually manage to do 3 recipes in an evening and still get dinner on the table for your family in a timely fashion? As we're talking about the important concept of organizing, it's something that you'll want to think about as you're planning out which recipes you're going to teach in class. For example, if it's a class where you're going to do 3 different recipes, you'll want to actually explain all the different recipes to everyone before you pass out any of the ingredients. You don't want to have a group working on recipe number 1 and a different group working on recipe number 2 and 3, and them not have any idea what the other groups were actually making. With an average of 8 to 15 participants for each class, we usually have the opportunity to accomplish more than just one recipe. You'll need to do a little bit of planning to make sure that each group has something to do at all times. A key part of that would be building a complete meal instead of just making one component. Once everyone is aware of all the different recipes that they're going to be making, it's perfectly fine for group 1 to be working on salsa, while group 2 works on the filling for the tacos, and group 3 makes the tortillas. Above all, don't forget to let your personality shine through. Many of our participants sign up for Operation Frontline classes because they think taking a cooking class will be a lot of fun. And part of your job is to help them see that cooking really can be a fun family activity and something that they can do for the rest of their lives in a very healthy way.